Yes, I am. Okay, consider gone. Everything's live. We got one person on, and Chuck should be showing up, I think. We'll give him another 30 seconds or so. Okay, well, it's 3 o'clock on Wednesday, the 5th of June. This is the Water Management Committee regular meeting. This is our call to order. I'm going to try to go through the first parts of this a little slowly because the contributions on number 3 would be led by Director Griffin, I think, who is supposed to be here. But in absence of Mr. Griffin, maybe we'll just go ahead and move forward. And are there any public questions in the queue? No? Okay, so we'll go on to number 3, and perhaps you could spend a little time on this for us, George, and then we'll hopefully Chuck will come in and be able to weigh in on it.
Yeah, I think of significance is the at the next Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority regular meeting, they're having a workshop where people will be encouraged and invited to provide any additional information to the GA related to the upcoming updates of the groundwater sustainability plan. We'd certainly encourage all members of the public to attend, submit any information that they have. And beyond that, we are continuing to work with them on consolidation efforts. That's slowly moving forward. As far as their agenda wasn't on the future meeting wasn't that much. I'm trying to think from the last meeting, not a lot to report.
Is the purpose of the meeting a regular meeting and a workshop, or is the purpose of the meeting a workshop?
I believe the regular meeting has the workshop embedded within it. I think as they were scheduling the agenda, they went kind of back and forth. Is the workshop after the meeting? I think it's sort of embedded within the regular meeting. They have a special time slot.
Did they give it a time slot or just a time beginning?
I believe the meeting starts at closed session is a half hour starting at 10:30, regular meeting starting at 11. I think the workshop's probably something like 11:30.
Okay. But there's no, there's not a limit to the amount of time. So if the public wanted to engage and.
Yeah, I think my impression of their getting ready for the meeting is they're going to give that workshop as much time as it needs.
Okay. Good. That's what they should do. And hopefully we'll get, unfortunately, it'll be in the middle of the day, which hasn't shown to draw a whole bunch of the public to the meetings, but hopefully that'll be different next week.
Sure.
There ought to be a lot of questions from the public, I would guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. We'll on to item, let's see, potential impact to recycle water and districts' need for imported water.
I think I got a sense from the Groundwater Authority and the city that they are seriously considering reopening that. It's never been taken out of the groundwater sustainability plan formally. I believe that they are certainly willing to still look at that project. So I feel like there's some progress in that arena, at least willingness on their part to continue to look at that as an option to provide water to the valley. So that's just sort of a gut feeling on some comments they made.
But still, the current plan is to build a wastewater treatment plant, but recycling or tertiary treatment of that water is really hasn't been funded or
Correct.
Out.
Yeah. So I guess they will build what is, I'll say, required by law for treatment of wastewater, and then anything that's additional that would, be used for injection or other. They call them purple pipe systems or whatever, all the different options that are out there for recycled water. I think they would be hoping to have someone else fund and operate that.
All right, and item 6.
We have one
Sorry, go
public
ahead.
comment.
Yes,
Yeah,
caller?
this is Renee Westerlusk. I just have a kind of maybe a large question. When you talk about recycled water, like how much recycling are you talking about? Like what would you be recycling it to? What grade of quality to be used where? Because there's some confusion.
Oh,
Like-
there certainly is, Renee, and
Okay.
we collect, I think the valley collects on the order of about 2,200 acre feet of effluent a year, which goes to one location, which is the PP, I colloquially call the PP lagoons out at China Lake. That water, a lot of it evaporates, but some of that water is treated and it is used for agriculture purposes. The golf course on base, for example, uses the water. I think there's other uses on base, but I'm not sure exactly where. And I think some of that water makes it out to the alfalfa fields in Ridgecrest, which are out sort of kind of east of the fairgrounds. So it's not a full-fledged purple distribution system of gray water in the valley, but we do make some use of what's thrown away. Well, I understand the plans for the new wastewater treatment facility would be more of that water would be captured and be available for reuse, as opposed to a large portion of it sitting in the evaporation ponds as they do today.
Would any of it be designated for industrial use?
It could be, but I don't believe anything has been nailed down. The purple distribution system that would be required is currently not in place other than the locations I mentioned that I'm aware of, and would require infrastructure investments. There has been some suggestions that kind of water could be used, like you say, by construction. I think Director Griffin has mentioned a couple of times it would be beneficial to companies that work dirt around here to get foundations ready for new construction. But there were a few issues there that have kind of slowed down that process. But I don't think the city has at least shared with us other information about where they plan to use the additional water that might be available.
Yeah, and would you mind if I answer a couple things?
Please.
So Renee, one of the things that's important to understand is that the state has a range of requirements for wastewater. They range from what is commonly called toilet to tap, which is not something that the water district is going to do, and that would require some really highly expensive treatment that's still sort of being developed. Below that, you have water that could be used, as you said, for industrial use or for, and at a lesser cost, you could treat it to just evaporate in a pond. So what you have to do is you have to sort of look at how much it costs to treat the water to the level for the use that you want. So if you want to use it to water the golf course, you have to treat it to level A. If you want to use it to an industrial process, maybe level B. If you wanted to use it all the way back into our system, it would have to be level, triple A, whatever you want to call it. So there's a whole cost analysis that goes into it. Now, there's a good paper on the Groundwater Authority website. I think it's a Title 16 study that sort of looked at the cost of the various treatment options, and it's a good read if you wanted to learn more. Our consultants have looked at it conceptually, but haven't gone into some of the level of detail, which I believe is a Title 16 report on the Groundwater Authority website that sort of lays out some of the costs, and you'll see costs from $900 an acre feet, I believe, to something like $3,000 an acre feet. So that's a good source to learn more about the options and what sort of technical requirements. It's not definitive, but it's certainly out there and it's informational.
And one other question, do you have to have a certain amount to make it even feasible to recycle?
Certainly economies of scale make everything better. The larger your project, certainly the more economical it becomes. I think that when I start talking about, these costs in dollars per acre feet, that's how you compare different projects. And as we've learned from our consultant Clean Energy Capital, this is a standard practice is to sort of scope out a project, calculate a dollar per acre foot cost. And that really, it doesn't matter how big or small the project is. It's sort of like, what is the real cost of getting the water? I mean, there certainly are things where you're not going to build tremendous infrastructure to treat tiny amounts of water. But I think the opinion of the water district in general that I've heard is that it's both feasible and practical, and it potentially is cost effective, although that might require more study.
The technology is there. If you're really interested in it, you can look up what the Metropolitan Water District is planning to do with their recycling activities, where they're basically taking effluent, processing it, and finding a way to get back into the drinking water system down in Southern California. Orange County does so today. They collect their effluent, it's all treated, and then put in, I don't think they're doing injection, but they are doing percolation into their groundwater system. There's a facility in Del Mar, San Diego, and Las Vegas is probably one of the biggest ones on the West Coast, where they capture all of their effluent and recycle it. So there's some light reading for you if you want to look into it. So the technology does exist, but in all four of those examples I just gave you, the scale of the efforts are huge compared to what they would be here. So it's not clear that while they're able to do it, that we would be able to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6, alternate water sources.
It will be interesting. There's a comment there, exploration of subbasins. It'll be interesting to see in the update to the groundwater sustainability plan, whether they reclassify the El Paso area as a subbasin or not. That is something I believe they are considering. It's been reported in their meetings as such. I don't think there's a lot of other information at this point to touch on as it relates to alternate water sources today.
Okay, yeah, we're a little bit constrained there, aren't we? We did talk a couple times this year about maybe having Wade Major come in and give us a brief on what was the final status of the brackish water.
That is supposed to be in work, and I have not heard from him, and as a good reminder, I'll take a note to get that on our schedule, because
I last sent him an email, so if you want, I'll follow up on that.
okay, thank you, Renee.
Thanks for that, Renee. I really, deep down, I think that's going to be one of our best options for future water sources in this valley. If we can get Sigma to recognize that conversion of brackish doesn't count against the water budget. And right now, I think they believe it does. But anyway, it'd be good to hear. Okay, so I guess that'll feed into future agenda items. So yeah, if you could put that in the agenda for the future, Renee, and check with Wade, see where he is. I'd sure appreciate that. Any final comments or observations? Not hearing any. Okay, we'll call the meeting at 13 minutes after 2. Not quite as efficient as our vice president's meeting before, but pretty close.
Okay.
Thanks for all your help, guys.